Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I hope you guys are having a great day today. There's a lot of transfer portal movement. Thing is wrapping up. We lost two Buckeyes today, and a big left tackle who played for Chip Kelly, started for Chip Kelly every game last year, just hit the portal from UCLA. We're going to get into all that, and what does it mean for the Buckeyes? And is there a chance we go after this kid? We're going to get into all that. Of course, we always appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a great show. This is a huge show because you guys make it a huge show. Thank you for all that you guys do. It is great to have you guys here. It is great to be here. We appreciate you guys each and every night kicking it with us. A lot of you guys are waiting all day for 7 o'clock so we can kick it and talk in the chat. Get the super chats fired up. Appreciate you guys taking care of our Pay It Forward crew. So thank you for all of that. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. As always, we appreciate all of the correspondence. Thank you for all the comments. They're wonderful. They're great to read. The likes are huge for these videos. We had a huge video yesterday thanks to you guys, so we appreciate all of the support. As always, shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, we appreciate all you guys do to make this show a huge show, because, again, this is a huge show because you guys make it one. So thank you. Again, this is my nice long thank you note to you guys, and we appreciate all you guys do each and every day. But we're going to get right into it because this is a crazy day. Nevada, we lose Enoch Vamahi, a 6-year offensive lineman. We lose Nigel Glover, who is a kid that transferred in the middle of camp last year from Northwestern when they fired Pat Fitzgerald. And then Bruno Fina is a kid from UCLA who's very interesting. But your thoughts on Enoch and Nigel? We'll start with the Buckeyes, and then we'll move into the UCLA Bruin.
Well, we've always talked about how there would be some portal, I guess I'd call them casualties or portal movement or whatever. And, with Enoch and Nigel, just great kids, really nice kids that just really don't have a path to see the field here. And, when that happens, I think these things are generally for the best for them to move on. And what you're seeing with kids now is, they're being a little bit later, being a little bit more deliberate in terms of moving in the portal. Because for a lot of kids, what they found is when they moved in the portal, they didn't have suitors, they didn't have places to go. And so I think what kids are doing now is they're waiting, they're being a little bit more deliberate in terms of their portal movement. They're sending out feelers via their agent to find out if there's interest, where there's interest, how there's interest, how much there's interest, and then at that, when the time's right, they'll go out and do it. So with Nigel and with Enoch, hey, I appreciate everything they did for the Buckeyes in terms of being there and trying. But it really is best for all that they kind of move on in terms of doing it, because they're not going to see playing time in Columbus, and they want to pursue their careers like college football players. Probably best going elsewhere. So I wish them nothing but the best, and hope they really do well in future endeavors. As for the UCLA offensive tackle, this is really interesting because obviously, I don't have to explain to people that with Chip Kelly moving here, that clearly there's a relationship with Chip Kelly. Clearly, with Justin Fry, they know the kid, they know of the kid, they know about the kid, and what Ohio State has been intrigued by and looked at several times during the spring was moving Jimmy Simmons potentially to the right side if somebody on the left side emerged that could step up, that they could move Jimmy to his more natural position on the right tackle, and that would kind of solve things on the offensive line, because then Josh Pryor moves into right guard. You've got Carson, and you've got Seth at center. You've got Donnie at left guard. So it could be interesting. I mean, it could be nothing, or it could be something, but you'll have the best people in the world to evaluate this, because it's Chip Kelly and Justin Fry. Nobody's going to be in a better position to evaluate whether this kid can play at Ohio State, whether this kid can help Ohio State, and whether Ohio State's a good location for him. A starting left tackle from UCLA entering the portal certainly got my attention, and we're certainly going to be digging here in the next 24, 48 hours to see where Ohio State's interest lies with this, and if this could be that big offensive line piece that Ohio State goes after.
I just, for me, I don't know if he can pass block at the level that we need him to. That was his issue last year, and UCLA brought in two offensive line transfer portal kids, and they're hosting another one right now who's from Arkansas, who's a starting tackle. So I think it's a very interesting call because he was Chip's starting left tackle. I believe Justin obviously recruited him, so he knows the kid. He's not long; he's 6'4", so that's not great for a tackle. But he started 13 games last year, so uh, can he play left tackle for us? There's no way. Jimmy Simmons is a much better pass blocker than this kid. I think the question is would he be an upgrade over Luke Montgomery or Carson Hinzman at guard if you move Josh Fryer inside? And could this kid play right side? So I don't know. It's interesting. Do I want to upset the apple cart? I mean, Chip Kelly know better than anything. We'll know real quick if this kid comes and visits in the next 48 hours. We'll know what Chip Kelly thinks of this kid. It's either going to be this, it's going to be this, and based upon what Deshaun Foster, their head coach, did in the portal on the O line, especially on the edges at tackle. Like I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think that every time a tackle jumps in the boat and there's familiarity, now given Chip Kelly was his head coach, Chip Kelly recruited him, Justin Fry recruited him, because this kid's done. He's a redshirt junior, so he's been there for a while. He's probably there for I imagine with a freshman year there with Justin. So again, there's a lot of familiarity there. But does that work for us? And the thing about right now is if you do want to bring this kid in and you do want to give him some NIL money, whatever, the players are stuck now because the portal closes tonight at midnight or whenever the time is. Like today is the last day of the portal. That's why there was all this late activity where Enoch jumped in and Nigel Glover jumped in and this kid jumped in because the portal's closed now. So if you do take this kid, a lot of kids are trapped. Luke Montgomery is Tigra. Those kids can't you can't give this kid here and then all of a sudden those guys can leave because the portal's closed now. So that's an interesting layer when you talk about a team that's all in and a team that really wants to build for depth and build for this long season. Would it make sense to take this kid? Maybe. I don't know. To me, I think that it really just comes down to how good do you feel about our interior guy. Like, I mean, do you feel better? Because right now, I think Josh Fryer is the heavy favorite to start at right tackle because I don't think, and I think that the combination of Carson and Josh Fryer is the best right side as of right now. Now things can change. There's summer conditioning, and obviously there's training camp. Guys get hurt. Guys get dinged up. Again, I know every time I talk to you guys and I say something like things can change, it obviously looks like I'm hedging my bet, like I'm unsure, but it's more that, in a competitive situation like football, Luke Montgomery and Carson Hinzman could be battling for right guard. And the third day of training camp, like Luke Montgomery might sprain his ankle and miss 3 weeks or something. And then all of a sudden the fight's over and Carson's going to be the starting right guard because Luke's out. And, when you're in one of these position group competitions, like, you can't afford to get hurt. I mean, as bad as that sounds, that's just the life of a football player where if you're in a roster battle, like again, I was in the NFL and got hurt in camp and, you get hurt, man, you're in the infirmary, you're left behind, you're gone. I mean, the NFL, when you get hurt, they just cut you and they give you a settlement and you're gone. And because they need to get guys either that can play and guys that they can evaluate. They don't need guys that are hurt to be sitting around there. And college football is no different. When you're hurt, you're out of. It's like you're out of the race. When the training camp is the Kentucky Derby, which I know is going on this weekend. If the horse gets shin splints or whatever, the day before the race, like they don't stop the race. They still have the race the next day, and the horses doesn't get to do anything with it. And that's kind of what it's like in these position battles. So. This will be fascinating because, again, this kid, he was not good in pass protection last year. But, again, kids can get better. And again, sometimes when guys aren't great, it's kind of like with Josh Simmons having 17 false starts or whatever he had 2 years ago. There's a lot of factors. A lot of times it's the quarterback's fault as well. I'm not saying it's exclusive. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of a synergy between when a guy has a bunch of false starts and the cadence or a guy might have 38 pressures because they're starting a freshman quarterback who holds onto the ball for too long. I don't know. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do with him. Nevada, with Enoch and Nigel. Nigel was a weird one because he went to Northwestern. He took off literally during camp when they fired Pat Fitzgerald, came to Ohio State. I honestly, and I mean this, I swear to God, I didn't hear from the people I talked to that were at practice, I didn't hear his name a single time which wasn't overly surprising. But when you've got a bunch of young linebackers and it's wide open, like I figured I'd hear something, but I did not hear his name a single time. So this is not surprising. It means he's buried on the depth chart. We heard Arvell Reese, we heard Gabe Powers, we heard the guys that were the twos and the threes. I never heard a word about this kid, so I don't think it's lost. And Enoch had one of the weirdest careers I've ever seen at Ohio State, where he literally he started the Michigan game 2 years ago, and he was so bad that he got pulled in the second quarter, and they put Josh Fryer in at guard. And then they play him in this Missouri game, and it was the worst performance I've ever seen from an O line. And again, Missouri was good, but that was a catastrophe by the coaching staff. Like I couldn't believe that they didn't take that kid out when he was scared to death to be out there. Because again, you could see it. And again, you guys are human beings. A lot of you guys have played football, you've watched football, you've coached football. Maybe at some level, maybe not at the college level, but maybe at youth football or middle school or whatever. And like you could tell when a kid's scared to death, and it's like Enoch was scared to death, and he's a great kid. But sometimes it's just not your night. And he had a very interesting career. He started that huge Michigan game, then he started this bowl game, and both performances were as bad as I've ever seen. So I hope he lands somewhere where he can play. I hope he gets his confidence right. Because physically, I mean, he was an All-American coming out of high school, so something hasn't clicked yet upstairs, and he's running out of time. So I think he's going to go give it a shot somewhere where he can be guaranteed to start. Nevada, we got some super chats. Any rebuttals for anything that I said?
No, it's the Enoch thing is interesting because I mean he just, and again I'm not saying this to be Mr. Mean. I'm just let's just be honest. We're always honest in the show, but it's just clear he can't play at this level. And like you said, when he played against Michigan a couple years ago, I mean it wasn't good. And then the Cotton Bowl debacle. It's funny when we have discussions about bad offensive line play. People talk about bad offensive line play. That was bad offensive line play. That's a game you can point to as bad offensive line play. And that's why when stupid people talk about guards playing tackles, and when we had Thayer playing, Thayer and the Parrish or whomever, and Parrish Johnson as guards, and they're too tall, and that was bad offensive line play. I'm like, that wasn't bad offensive line. That was four guys that went on being NFL starters playing on the offensive line. The Cotton Bowl was bad offensive line play, and you look for the common denominator, and Enoch was the common denominator. And I feel bad for him because I agree with you. I thought that was coaching malpractice of the highest order. We've talked about them, the lack of changing the cadence, the fact that Matt Jones literally didn't know the line calls, and I mean there was just so many blunders there that one was 100% on the staff. I've also talked about how I think that was a lot of the impetus for a lot of the changes, the positive changes that we've seen in 2024. But yeah, it was definitely time for him to move on. And for Glover again, when I heard this, my first thing is I went back to my notes because I take notes on everything whenever I talk to anybody about it. And I'm with you. It's so funny you made that observation because I went through. I did not have his name in there one time, not one single time in any practice report, in any weight room report, any like nothing. And that's hard to do because I mean I get a lot of names and I get a lot of contacts. And I get a lot of inputs from just about every single player on the roster. Didn't get him one time. So again, I think he's an intriguing athlete. Certainly a smart kid, intriguing kid. I think he can play somewhere, but not at Ohio State. And like I said, probably time for him to move on. And we wish him well.
I I mean, with Nigel, it was weird because I was kind of excited. He ended up going to Northwestern, so I mean, it's going to be an uphill climb when you're a Northwestern talent. And you end up at Ohio State just because the talent is a huge gap. But I kept waiting to hear something because when we talk to people that are at practice, like sometimes it's nice just to say, "Hey, is there anybody that popped that you haven't noticed before?" Because like obviously, I was gonna say JJ Smith is amazing and Julian Sain is amazing and Trey Henderson is amazing, but like, is there anybody else, like any ancillary guys, any young guys? Because a lot of times at spring ball, it's like you want to see what the young guys are doing because, like, JT's good, Jack's good, so I never heard a word about Nigel, and I wish him well. Like, I mean, we know people that know his father is a great family. It was terrible what they did to Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. But that kind of gave him the opportunity when we missed on some linebackers in recruiting last year where we needed some depth and we took him, and he did get redshirted last year, didn't play at all. And so it was just a quick career for him, but hopefully he lands somewhere he likes. Nevada, you mentioned, I think maybe UC or somewhere of the ilk, which is fine. That'd be great. Be happy for him. It'd be interesting to see where Enoch goes. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good portal cycle for Ohio State. Actually, it was a perfect portal cycle because we didn't lose a single contributor. Again, Enoch is one of the strangest cases I've ever seen at Ohio State because, again, go back 2 years ago. We're in the Horseshoe. C.J. Stroud and Paris Johnson's last game in the Horseshoe. Like, the coaching staff, Justin Fry and Ryan Day, felt good enough to start Enoch Vamahi. I think Matt Jones was hurt. So they started Enoch. So again, he was like literally the sixth man on the team, and he did the role as the Bison guy who wears, he's the big extra guy that wears the 41 jersey. And, so obviously he was doing something right in practice. They didn't just throw a dart at the board and say, hey, you know what, we're going to put Enoch out there to see how it goes. Like, he had to be doing something. And then, man, when they turned the lights on in the shoe, he was literally, he was so bad. They started Enoch over Josh Fryer. Josh Fryer was like the backup guard that game. He was backing up actually at tackle. He's backing up DeWand, and he started that game early in the year at Indiana when DeWand was out. But they actually started Enoch over Josh Fryer. And Josh Fryer is all Big Ten last year. Josh Fryer is a really good lineman. So Enoch, it's bizarre that he was like, they picked him to start these two games, and yeah, literally, he got pulled in the second quarter because I remember watching him. And I was like, dude, he is not doing too hot in that Michigan game. And then I watched him that Missouri game, man, and it was brutal, And Matt Jones playing center when he never played center before versus a really, 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 really good defensive line. And they had a first rounder. They had a bunch of twitched up guys. They have a guy that could be a first rounder next year up there. Like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It was insanity. So. Again, just me, but our guys were not put in a position to be effective, and really, that's on the staff. Just my opinion. All right, so we got super chats. Any final thoughts to that as we move into the super chats?
No, just with the Ohio State kids moving out, it'll be interesting to see if we move anybody in. Like I said, the UCLA tackle. That's an intriguing. Now, for me personally, and nobody asked my opinion, but I'm going to offer it anyway, just because this is what I do on the show. I'd stay put with what we have. I like our offensive line room. Oh. I like guys like Zen and Luke and George and T. I like those guys. I think those guys can play. But I feel like we're really blessed in this particular situation because we have guys that have firsthand knowledge, so they're not going to be guessing. This isn't a Victor Cutler type of situation where they have no idea about this kid. Chip and Justin will really have a good handle on where they can find it. And like you said, if he visits, it's game on. So keep an eye on that for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think if we did get this kid, he's not a kid that you guarantee to start. Again, UCLA's offensive line was very average last year, and that's being kind. And this kid, could he beat out our two tackles? I don't think so. Not from pass protection standpoint. He allowed 38 hurries last year, which, when you're playing, a 12-game season, that's almost, if you play 13, that's almost 3 a game. It's like 2.9 a game, which is a lot of hurries. There's some years, like we had our tackles they might give up 5 hurries in a game, not 38 or whatever. But so the pass protection was very shaky last year. And again, Deshaun Foster, he's added two portal linemen. One was a tackle. He's hosting another tackle. So if he's not good enough to be locked in at UCLA, I don't know if he's good enough to help us. But again, it's intriguing just because he is a tackle. And I know how our fan base is, and I know how the people on here are, and I know the people on BuckeyeScoop.com's message bars. If there's a tackle that can walk and chew bubble gum, we got to get him. Or we're excited about him. So, but I don't know. He's a short arm kid, 6'4", 300. But who knows? He's got 13 starts in the Pac-12 last year. So, give it a go. All right, let's get to these super chats. Paul Lewis, what is up, brother? Appreciate you. Thank you for coming to our Scoop outing. Hope you are doing well. Can't wait for you to see you at the next one when you come up with your assassin sunglasses and your hat like you did last time, because I thought you were there to kill me. And you also gave me one of the greatest gifts of my entire life. So thank you for that. I've not opened that yet, but it was absolutely a gorgeous, incredible gift. So thank you for that. Thank you for the 100. That is incredibly generous. Appreciate you. Hi, guys. Just back from Nevis. Kirk, my hat was not a fedora. It was a LV baseball cap. So I'm guessing that's not Las Vegas. I'm guessing that's Louis Vuitton. So shout out to the fashionista. Shout out to the Wrenches, and it's great to be back with the Scoop family. Hope everyone is healthy and happy. Go Bucks. Well, Louis Vuitton baseball cap, that is very stylish, and that's probably very expensive. So I appreciate you, my man. You are very fashionable. And I was very much not fashionable when I was doing that. My standing at Buffalo Wild Wings for 3 hours. I was a hot mess. So, but it was great seeing you and your lady. And again, I appreciate you so much for all you do on the show. And thank you for being a Hall of Famer as well. Nevada, Paul Lewis, I can imagine him now in a Louis Vuitton baseball cap, which is very stylish, is happy to be back. And he went to Nevis. I don't even know where Nevis is. Where is Nevis?
I don't even. I thought you were. I thought you knew. I was feeling really ignorant, but
No,
I know
no.
you have the Google machine there, so you can check that out. Where is Nevis? We need to know this.
An island in the Caribbean Sea. Wow.
Oh my! Wow.
You want to talk about
nice.
where we're going to do the next Scoop meetup? Let me tell you.
Yeah,
we're going to a place called Nevis, and instead of my crummy Nike hats, we're going to have Louis Vuitton Scoop hats. Oh my God! Look at this. Here's Nevis. Wow. This is like, now the only good thing about this is
I've never
heard of it either. Never heard of it. I mean, I didn't even know what a Nevis was. I think that there's a city on Fallout called Nevis, but that's about it. The greatest show ever made. Look, there's Nevis. That is Scoop 101. Wow,
that's beautiful.
That is not Columbus, Ohio. I promise you. But it looks wonderful. It's in the Caribbean. It looks quiet. I don't know if they have the Wi-Fi to broadcast 4K signals for a podcast, so I'll never get to go there. But I'm glad you guys get to send me the photos from it. So appreciate you, Paul. Thank you for educating all of us today. In the chat, have any of you guys been to Nevis, let alone heard of Nevis? But this place looks amazing. So let's look. I'm looking at this little. Okay, here we go, Nevada. Let's play Carmen Sandiego real quick. Where in the world is Carmen? Where in the world is Kirk? And so over here is Nevis Peak. There's Nevis Peak. So I think that's Nevis.
Oh, so it's part of St. Kitts. It's like part of the St. Kitts thing or something.
It's one of those things.
Okay. So, okay, I've heard of St. Kitts. I have heard of St. Kitts before.
But you haven't heard of Nevis?
No, and I'm pretty well traveled. But I mean, obviously, there's so many places in the world. I haven't been to all the places in the United States that I want to go to, let alone the world. But Nevis looks beautiful. I got to put that on the list for sure.
And there's only one place I want to go, and it ain't Nevis, and it ain't anywhere else in the world. The one place I'm going, you know that. The Cosmopolitan, baby. I want to be there. They got pools. They got pizza. They got everything I need. So that was where I'm heading to.
You're going to the Virgin Hotel. The Virgin Hotel in Las Vegas.
There's nobody there. That was one of the big shockers of my life that it failed, but it's one of the biggest failures in Vegas history. Because Virgin is like a cool brand, Richard Branson and all that craziness. Like his cruises go nuts, and the Virgin Hotel is like the greatest. It's like one of the greatest flops in the history of Vegas. And you're like a Vegas guy, so when they spend a fortune to renovate a place, and it's like Resorts World. Those are the two biggest flops in the history. Like they're just never going to be out of like a death spiral of nobody. It's like they spent all that money to renovate it and nobody goes there. The absolute death spiral. Sergio Sama, thanks for the deuce. Update on that Miami of Ohio kicker. He committed to Bama like 2 weeks ago. So like the day that he hit the portal, the next day he was roll tide roll. And we didn't lift a finger. We didn't want him. We didn't call him. The collectives weren't engaged. So I don't know. I mean, he won the Lou Groza Award, and he's in the state of Ohio, and he grew up in the state of Ohio, and we let him go to Alabama. So we'll see. I mean, we can't blame this one on Parker Fleming anymore because he's on the breadline. So we're going to see what's going on with all of that. But yeah, That was the one guy that I really wanted that I thought realistically we could get in the portal, and he hit the portal, and we just let him fly by the Woody on his way to Tuscaloosa. So again, I mean, the coaches might know more than the voters that voted for the major awards do, but we'll see. Nevada, you agree with me on the Miami of Ohio kicker?
Well, yeah, that was it was funny because we'd identified him way early, and we both agreed we're like this is a guy who could really make a tangible difference for our team this year, really help us out. And then he goes, and as you said, Ohio State just had no interest, absolutely no interest, and we tried to lobby it, man. We worked it hard. We did everything we can. We can have some influence because Ohio State watches our show, guys. Believe you me, but couldn't get this one over the goal line. So I wish him roll damn tide, but I wish he was a Buckeye. But onward and upward.
Totally agree. Pooh Beard, what is up, brother? Thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, my man. Assuming no late changes, I'm glad that Scum's best players didn't transfer. It'll make our victory that much sweeter, and they're not bolstering the rosters of actual contenders: Georgia, Oregon, Texas, etc. Nevada OH.
I
I can see that. I'm good either way, but I agree. I mean, I think if those guys go to Texas, then that makes Texas, probably the favorite, but they stayed put, and I saw a 2025 draft list that's got their 1D tackles, the number 2 player in the entire draft. Like they've got him like he's an Aaron Donald. No one's Aaron Donald, but he's like that kind of a guy. He could be a top 5 pick as a D tackle. They've got Will Johnson as a top 10 guy. Colson Lovin is the best tight end. So I mean, they've got like 3 guys that are like top 20-ish draft prospects. So they all stayed put. So hey, God bless them. I mean, a couple more Michigan guys jumped ship, but it looks like they're ready to roll. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, it's I'm not as into it as other people are, but I just think that with what they lost, I mean, they lost more combine guys than anyone in history, and they lost their whole coaching staff. So that's a lot. I mean, this isn't. It's like I tell people, this isn't NCAA 14 or Madden or something where you can just plug and play guys that are freshmen and your team's going to be just as good every single year. I think the video game culture dilutes the intelligence of people that grew up playing that game, because they're just like, oh, I just lost the number 1 pick in the draft, and I can just go put this freshman in and play on rookie mode and still beat Michigan by 100 points. But that's not how it really works in real life. But that's what I think people expect. So I think it'll be really interesting. Nevada, what are your thoughts? Pooh Beard says, assuming no late changes, he's glad that Michigan's best players didn't transfer, and he believes it'll make the victory much sweeter. And he's happy that they're not bolstering the rosters of teams that we can see in the playoffs, like Georgia, Oregon, Texas, etc. He also hits us with the OH.
IO.
So, what are your thoughts? Are you on the same vibe as Pooh Beard?
I think it's a great point because the odds were if any of them entered the portal, they wouldn't be coming to Ohio State, so they'd have to go somewhere. That was always in the back of my mind, the concern that they would go somewhere else where they could really help a team out. And now we know it's a double whammy. And I've said this before on the show. I There is a big part of me that wants them there so we can just kick their arses there at the end of November in Columbus and send them home, do the whole wave bye bye thing to them, and kind of send them on down the road. Um, secondly, we kind of know where they are. They're at Michigan, which means they're not going to be relevant in the playoff. They're going to be a team that's 8-4, 9-3, just kind of lumber through this season. They have no chance to win the national championship. They have no chance to win the Big Ten, and part of it makes me happy. So I for the Michigan guys, it's going to be a tough year, man. It is going to be a tough year. I know they've got a few players. They've got a handful of players. I mean, the sad thing for Michigan guys is bad or challenging. I say bad because this year is not going to be a bad year for Michigan, but it's going to be a super challenging one compared to the one. Look in the future. Look at the next year, and then look at the next year. I mean, they are circling the drain right now, and there's no reinforcements coming. There's no portal kids coming. There's no recruits coming, um, and they've got a staff that's in complete disarray right now. So yeah, those guys stand there. a big part of me is very happy because I want to beat Michigan and I want to beat Michigan bad, and not that I want them at full strength, but I want those guys to feel the pain. They got the benefit of the cheating the last few years. Now I want them to feel the other side of that, and they're going to get that in November.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very interesting. And again, I'm right there with you. I want them to feel the pain, and I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great year to be an Ohio State fan. Mello, what is up, brother? Thank you for the dues. Revenge season for the Avengers, Oregon, the Cheaters up north, and Georgia. Well, if there's ever a season to get the three of those guys when they're combined weakest, it's probably this year, because Michigan is obviously way down. Oregon, I think, will still be very, very good. And I think Georgia is about what they were 2 years ago. The quarterback is projected as a top 10 pick, good player. I don't think they're anywhere near as good as where they were in 21 when they had probably the best defense in the history of college football. They had like 4 D linemen get drafted in the first round over the next 2 years with Carter and then the big fat guy that weighed like 380. They all went to the Eagles, so you can look at Jordan Davis. But yeah, this is the year. I mean, for Ryan, every domino that could fall has fallen. And it's been about as good of a run as you could have in terms of luck and just roster management and things breaking the right way. So I'm excited to see what he can do with it. Honestly, this is going to be a monster year for the Buckeyes. And again, I think that this is it's good. Like these guys are in a 3-week break right now, and I think as soon as that's over, man, it's go time in a major way. The coaches are out recruiting right now. Justin Fry went and saw David Sanders today. So the coaches are out making the rounds with the big time guys right now, trying to hit some of their schools before school's out for the summer. But yeah, this is gonna be one of those years where you got to cash it in. You got to cash in the ticket. It's like in 2019, 2015, in my lifetime, 2005, 2006, ones we didn't cash in. But yeah, it's sometimes I feel like it's harder to cash in the years that you're supposed to, as opposed to being able to sneak up on teams like we did in 02 and in 14. I think there's something to that. But this team, everyone knows what the expectations are. It's the revenge tour. It's the unfinished business. Like it's whatever superlatives you want to put on the t-shirt. That's what this year is. None of these guys have any gold pants. They haven't won gold pants ever. None of these guys have won a championship ring. So they haven't won bowl games. I mean, there's a lot on the line this year for these boys. So I'm excited for them, and I think that they're excited to come back. Nevada, with this being the revenge season per Mello, what do you think of the lineup of Oregon, Michigan, and Georgia? I think this is a good year to catch those teams.
Yeah, I actually think Georgia's a little bit down, and I think Oregon's really good, but I think they're a little bit down from last year as well. So, good time to catch them. I'm excited to see Chip Kelly liberated from the shackles of being a head coach and what he can do as just an offensive coordinator. And I'm seeing what Ryan Day can do when he's released from the shackles of being a play caller and can just be a head coach. I think that combination right there is one of the best storylines of 2024. And the fact that it happens to be here at Ohio State as part of the offensive brain trust, I think that's going to be the story of the 2024 season. And I think the result's going to be something absolutely magical. And that's going to be a big problem for whomever we play, but certainly for Michigan, Georgia, and Oregon, we're going to be really difficult to stop on offense. And I'm excited to see it.
I think it's gonna be one of those years, man. I'm telling you. Tony Turley, Scoop Hall of Famer. Good talking to you, brother. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for being an Ultra member. Thank you for the 20. Kirk, when you are coaching offensive line, is there a target spot for hand placement on the defensive player? That's a great question. And does it vary on the type of wrestler, e.g. bull versus spin versus swim? Nevada OH. Nevada, do you want to answer this one first, or do you want me to take it?
I think I'm going to defer to you on this one, and then I'll fill.
I'm just saying, you can say you throw a blizzard at their feet and make the D lineman fall down and hope that they go after the Oreo crumbs or something.
I know you don't know a lot about offensive line play, but I'm going to let you do this because I know you used to play, and so
I think a guy that's great to study is Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is one of the greatest players who's ever lived. played forever for the Browns, 10-time Pro Bowl or whatever it was, first ballot Hall of Famer. Um, in pass protection, he would always aim for the inside bicep with his inside arm. And that would stop a lot of rush moves. And he always carried his arm up versus spin move guys. So yeah, there are places that you aim, or there's ways that you carry your hands versus certain players. And again, the funniest thing about offensive line play is that I don't know if there's anything in the universe where there's more diverse opinions by people that are really good to get the job done in a really high level than offensive line. There's some line coaches that swear carry your hands low in pass protection. And there's some like Harry Heastand, carry your hands high, like in front of your face. Like it's one of the craziest things in the world. And there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and there's a lot of ways to pass protect and run block and all that. So I mean, for me, I'd always look at the inside arm. Like that was something that Jim Bowman taught, and Charles Bentley perfected it. And that's why I signed for like $50 million with the Browns. And unfortunately blew his knee out in like the second practice of his career. Or I think it was actually the first practice of his career with the Browns. He blew his knee out and got a staph infection. I mean, he almost died. Like people didn't realize how bad it was. And that's why the Cleveland Clinic and the Browns got sued, because like him and Joe Juravich, there are a bunch of guys like their careers ended because they caught a staph infection at the Browns facility, which is crazy. But yeah, I would aim running game inside arm, try to get his inside hand. The whole thing about offensive line play is you got to keep the guy's hands off you, and if he gets his hands on you, you got to get him off. You got to refit him, and you got to do it really fast. And if you control his inside hand and can get your hands to his his chest plate, then you're gonna win, and you're gonna torque the guy, and you'll probably be able to run him out of the stadium. And that was something I did a lot. And when I was really good at it, like it was like a clinic tape. And so that was something, especially when we ran to our side, like if we'd run a stretch play or a running play to my side, that was something I used to, that was my favorite plays when they'd run right behind me, because the defensive end in general has what they call contain. He has to contain the edge of the defense. So, when you know that, you can run that guy into the sideline because he always has to stay outside of you. Like he's got the D gap, the C gap, unless you've got a tight end D gap, and he's going to run with you. So I would use that against him constantly. When we played Wisconsin, man, in 2007, I was balling. I took that guy out into the sideline a bunch of times, and Beanie ran for like 220 yards. And a lot of times they knew that we ran right so much that they would overplay it. And Beanie against Wisconsin actually cut it back a bunch of times because they were overplaying it so bad to the front side. So the hand placement thing is something where, I've been critical, and again, everyone's different. But I just think that there's, our guys leave a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to their technique with their hands. And guys that are really, really strong, like Donnie Jackson, you don't play strong if you don't use your hands, and some of these guys, I know they're trying to, I know that they want to. It's not that they're bad kids. It's not like they're trying to do it, but they get handled by guys that should never handle a kid like Donnie because they let them get their hands into him. It's like if two people want to square off, and try to, push each other out of the road, if one guy can use his hands, he's going to dominate the other guy, assuming everything else is equal, obviously. But yeah, versus bull rush guys, I mean, I'd always do the inside arm deal. The spin is interesting because it depends on how often they spin and how good they are at the spin. But like with Freeney, when he was in his prime, Paul Alexander, who coached for the Bengals, is one of the greatest line coaches who's ever lived. Coached for the Bengals for like 25 years. Pro Bowlers like Willie Anderson played for him. They would always kind of clamp the guy, like a big clamp. And because then when you do that, if a guy spins, he just kind of spins in place. If you carry your hands like in the middle, like you see a lot of guys set with, as soon as they spin, they can get both your hands and get around you in a hurry. So, versus Freeney and Mathis, it was almost like you just give up the bull rush and you'd want them to bull rush you because they were so small. Because you'd rather than bull rush you because you could stop them way easier than letting them spin against you. So, not a lot of guys swim unless they're really tall, or they just beat you off the count. If they beat you off the count, like Mike Hall would swim guys that were centers. But I think that 90% of the rushes are bull rushes. I mean, most guys bull rush, and bull rushes in a game aren't anywhere near as effective as they are in like a one-on-one pass rush or in a camp. Like I saw the kid at the Under Armour camp bull rush the kid into oblivion yesterday, with or on Sunday with no pads on, and like any idiot can do that. And again, I'm not calling the kid an idiot. He seems like a nice kid, but the coaches shouldn't allow that. And I think that the kid didn't realize that that wasn't allowed, but that's something you can't do. You can't allow that in a camp setting because someone's gonna get hurt. I mean, it come down to it, and I'm not like some guys. Oh, I'm for the meek and whatever, but those dumb camps, like if one of those kids gets hurt in one of those things, and then they miss summer conditioning with their high school team, they miss camp. Like I don't know. I think it's a travesty. Nevada, anything to add, or are we going to our next chat?
Well, no, I just want to make a point. Like, sometimes you'll see on social media, you'll see those clips of those guys, beating up an offensive lineman in those one-on-one drills, and everybody's hooting and hollering, and the coaches are high-fiving them, and I'm just like, it's just trash. I mean, it's just trash. It's like it's wrong, and they shouldn't do it, but they do it. But like you said, a lot of times the coaches that are supervising those drills and overseeing those camps, just don't know any better, and it's kind of ignorant, but it is kind of funny to watch sometimes.
Yeah, it's honestly sad sometimes that I see the caliber of some of the coaches, but it is what it is. Ben G, thank you for being an ultra member, and thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my man. Kirk / Nevadabuck. Defensive recruiting results revisited post on a scoop was jarring. I saw that. Do you think it's mostly bad evals, staff churn, bad development, etc.? Curious as to your thoughts and if you think it gets fixed. By the way, NHL playoffs have been killer so far. I agree. I love the NHL playoffs. I love when there's great West Coast games, like when Edmonton's playing the Kings and the puck drop is like at 10:30. I'll stay up and watch the whole game. Like I love those late nights. I'm a night owl and I love to work on BuckeyeScoop.com at night, and so I love those late games. But the playoffs have been amazing so far. Nevada, what are your thoughts? The recruiting results from the last few years where there's a big thread on BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, if you guys aren't on BuckeyeScoop.com and you guys love this podcast, like you guys have to join it because it's like this podcast, except it's 24 hours a day. So I know some of you guys live for 7 o'clock and you guys love kicking it with everybody, but like we have people on here all the time, 24 hours a day on our site, and it's always awesome. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on some of the recruiting misses? Because it was a little jarring when you saw the guys that we missed. I'm going to throw this up on the board real quick. This is from BuckeyeScoop.com. This is obviously, it kind of just denotes, the Ohio State defensive recruits signed by Ohio State from 18, 19, and 20. And the list is pretty interesting. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, just staff turnover. When you have staff turnover at the college level is the devil, and it really showed that we were having we had a challenging staff situation right there, and then we went to a defensive coordinator that really didn't know what he was doing, and the combination of the turnover with the people on there that didn't really know what they were doing, and you end up with a situation like this. And I think now we've got some stability, and I expect things to be markedly better. I think they already are with the amount of talent that we're kind of amassing on the defensive side. But that's why I always look when I see staff changing over, when you see new DCs coming in every year or every couple of years or whatever it is. I think player development's going to be affected, and because I'm not of the opinion that it's all just bad evaluation. I generally think that, in a situation like this, it can't just be all bad evals. It's got to be a combination of things, and I think Ohio State went through a difficult patch, and you see the results in that. It definitely underperformed on that side of the ball.
I mean, I think some of these guys aren't as good as their ratings projects. I mean, we can just go through the guys. I mean, Tyreek's the guy that was obviously way overrated. I think he was a 5-star. Never panned out. Dallas Gant transferred to Toledo. Actually did all right at Toledo. Taraj was a 5-star. I mean, there was actually a list on Rivals today that was like 7 5-stars who did not get drafted, and he was actually a 5-star by Rivals.com. Played 6 years, played at Florida. I mean, didn't play at Florida, but he went to Florida this year, and just they tried to play. I mean, he's a weird guy because he was actually a captain like 3 years ago at Ohio State. So, again, like we had this patch where Ryan was naming guys captain that didn't even play, guys that stunk, and I think that was as hilarious and weird as I've ever seen. Seven Banks was a guy that was a total marshmallow, not a good player at all. Alex Williams, I don't even remember him. Marcus Hooker went to Youngstown State, had that incident. Bryson Shaw actually was decent at SC. I did not get drafted. Noah Potter is somewhere. I think he might be at NC State or somewhere. Craig Young went to Kansas. Obviously didn't get drafted. Jaden McKenzie, no. Kermani Hamilton, no. Ryan Watts actually got drafted. He went 6th round to the Steelers. So I think that was actually one that I'm never upset when a kid leaves, but he actually got drafted. So he's actually wrong on this list, but he didn't get drafted from Ohio State. So I don't know. I mean, they counted Javonte Jean-Baptiste, but they didn't count Ryan Watts. Cam Martinez, obviously, again, and he played last year. He played in that Michigan game where Jim Knowles' first year where he got torched. Jacoby Cowan wasn't good enough. Darian Henry Young wasn't, legend, wasn't good enough. Undrafted, Josh Proctor's a guy that had a lot of injuries. So, he played 6 years. I thought he was really good last year. I hope that, he signed an NFL contract. He signed an undrafted deal with the Jaguars. So I think he's got a shot on making the roster. Now, the hard part is when you're a 6-year guy, if you're a 6-year guy in modern college football, unless you're like Bo Nix and you're like a Heisman finalist, like, it's really hard to get drafted unless you're just really, really good because you're already like 24 years old. So you're an overaged prospect. And he had a couple catastrophic injuries. So he missed a lot of time. Was, kind of up and down. But I love Josh Proctor. Like, I hope he makes it. I hope he's a scud missile on special teams. I hope that he makes an impression on Jacksonville because he's a kid that I thought really played well last year and was very underrated, but he was very effective last year at times. Tyler Friday, a lot of injuries, pass blocker. Cam Brown, again, just a guy, another guy that was just a guy, played corner for us. Teron, he was another guy, 5-star tackle. Obviously, Troy Vincent's son, just too easy to block. That was the thing about him is like I'd watch him on film and I'd be like, I'd love to play against a guy like that because he's just easy to block. And same with Jerron Cage. Like we had some D tackles that were just like marshmallows in the middle and they got bounced all over the place. Ronnie Hickman, he made the Browns last year, played for the Browns last year. I think he might have started a game or two last year when they had some injuries. So I don't, Ronnie, I mean, undrafted doesn't mean that like you didn't make it. I mean, there's guys that get drafted that never make an active roster. And then there's guys that are undrafted that make active rosters. So I mean, Ronnie's in a different category for me because I think that, he has a chance to have a nice career just because he's already got one active season under his belt and played well. And Steele's a kid, position change in the middle of his career, coaching change in the middle of his career. I think he's got upside. He's a great kid. He's a great athlete. Obviously, he's still learning linebacker, so he wasn't as good as we probably needed him to be, but I like Steele. I think Steele's got upside. And again, you can tell what NFL teams think of these guys when they sign them instantly. Like Steele Chambers was signed by the Detroit Lions like the second the draft was over. He was a Detroit Lion. So there was probably a bunch of teams that wanted Steele. He's a 2-year starter at Ohio State. A lot of upside, a lot of athleticism. So there's a lot to like there. In terms of the drafted guys, Tyreek's with Seattle, doing good things. Tommy Togiai, I think, is with the Falcons now. He's drafted by the Browns initially. Zach Harrison had a nice year last year. I mean, Zach Harrison is the kind of guy you'll look down. He'll play 10 years in the league. He'll get 5 sacks every year and he'll do everything right. He'll do community service. He'll be a great person in the community. And guys like Zach, there's a lot of Zach Harrisons in the league that just play forever just because they do everything the right way. They're smart kids. And he's got a lot of unrealized potential with his athleticism. So Zach's going to play for a long time in the league. Tommy is a guy that I felt terrible for last year because he was really beat up. Elbows were bad. Shouldn't have played versus Michigan, but he's a Warrior, so I don't fault him for playing. I would have played, even if I'm at 50% like Tommy was. But he wasn't the same guy that he was 2 years ago because he was so hurt. So if he gets healthy, I think the Raiders have a steal there. Javonte Jean-Baptiste made one of the best transfers that we've had and went to Notre Dame, started, was effective, played really good against us, and ended up getting himself drafted. Like, again, that's why I don't fault guys like Enoch and Javante that jump in the portal for their last year and go start somewhere because of what he did at Notre Dame as a starter, he got picked. Where if he would have came back this year to Ohio State or this past year to Ohio State, he wouldn't have gotten picked because he wouldn't have played enough. So good for him. And then current roster, Cody Simon. I think he could easily get drafted next year if he's healthy and he tests like I know he can test. Lathan, he'll be questionable just because of the injuries. Mitchell Melton, same injuries. Court Williams is probably never going to play again. Or if he does, he'll be very limited. But I could see him being a medical redshirt. They already gave Caleb Downs number 2, his jersey number. So I don't know what we're going to get out of Court. Great kid, but I mean he's torn his ACL like 3 times or 2 or 3 times. So eventually, like you want to be able to walk when you're 40. So he might be done. Ty Hamilton has a shot. His brother signed a huge extension in the league, so genetically, I think there's a shot. Nevada, anything to add to any of those guys? As a few more super chats have poured in.
No, just I mean, when you look at it, I mean, there's a lot of guys there that got drafted. A lot of guys playing in the NFL. Four or five guys that are still on the current roster that are big time contributors to the cause. So it's kind of the nature of college football when some of the guys work out, some of the guys don't work out. Some of the guys don't work out because of injuries. Some don't work out because of talent. Some don't work out because of scheme and lack of cohesion with the staff. But I think if they say if 30% of them are contributors or 40%, then those are like excellent classes. I mean, here, that's probably about the mix that you've got. You probably got about 30-40% that were real nice solid contributors, and the other ones kind of moved on. So it's probably not as bad as it looks on paper. But I think it's just probably the nature of college football in some way.
Yeah, and again, no one hits 100%. Things happen. Again, I always say I'm not excited about these kids until they get there and they prove they can play college football. And then number 2 is that they can handle college, period. Because some of these kids, they get here, they're homesick, they start smoking a ton of weed, start partying every night, they get obsessed with girls. I mean, I've seen everything, so like some of these guys, they're like fruit flies. They take their eye off the ball quick. And I'm just like, you guys know if you're a good player, like the girls are going to get way hotter, right? Not these skunks you guys are hanging out with. Like you actually get on the field, can you imagine? And some of those guys will laugh, and and they all suck. They didn't end up getting on the field, but it's just part of life, If you actually go out and ball and you do good, then all of a sudden, like everything in life's way better. But some of those guys, they chase that cheap heat, man, and I'm like, you guys, whew. I mean, it's like, whew. I was like, I thought we were gonna have to call like animal control with some of these chicks that these guys are bringing back, man, because like they're gonna get the skunk traps out. Oh my god. Chris Schmidbauer, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. I hope you're doing good. The king of the Woody Hayes. Schmidbauer was at the Woody and worked at the Woody Hayes while I was there. Appreciate you, my man. Controversial on the home unis, Nevada. Do you prefer the big gray sleeves or the thin black and red? Is there any chance we'll see more alternates this year, Nevada? Your thoughts?
Alternate uniform. We've talked about this before, but alternate uniforms is something that I love. I know the traditionalists hate that stuff, and they hate the black jerseys, and they hate the different iterations. But man, the kids love that stuff, and that stuff is it's great from a merchandising standpoint. It's great from a recruiting standpoint. The kids get all excited about it. Will there be more? I know there'll be some. I don't know if it's going to be more. For me, I like the thin, but that's just a matter of everybody's got a different opinion on it. I like I like the all white uniforms. I like the gray. Obviously, the black I think is one of the most intimidating and best uniforms in sports. But I think Ohio State will continue to do more and more of that stuff, and I'm glad that that's one part of the thing that they've embraced, because they've resisted kind of getting into 2020. I mean, you look at Oregon and they have a new uniform set every week, and I know a lot of people goof on that, but the kids dig it. It's exciting for them, and it does help them in a place where they're recruiting with virtually no recruiting base, and they manage to get kids. And do I think that's the reason somebody comes? No, but it just shows the commitment from Nike to them that that's exciting. So no, I think we'll see some, but I don't know how many alternates we'll see, but we'll see at least a couple.
To me, this is the best fit we had. This is from '05. This is Dante Whitner with Tyler Everett in the background. I love the gray sleeves. I thought the gray sleeves were the best look. I liked the Oakley shield. Now they've got like a Nike shield, which is the visor. Um, God, I like the grass. I miss the grass. The grass was pretty. Um, but yeah, I liked these sleeves a lot as opposed to what they. It was funny because I remember when they switched it. I mean, our fan base goes crazy when they switch it to that black. I mean the black sleeves. Here, I'll flick those on real quick with Gonzo. This was from '06. They did like the thinner black sleeves. I didn't like them. I mean, honestly, I didn't even like this jersey. These jerseys were much different material. Like I didn't like anything about them, but that's what we had the last 2 years. But yeah, it's always interesting to see. I think that our best jersey is the black jersey by far. Like, I mean, if there's one jersey, again, I'm not jealous of anything in life, but the black Ohio State jersey is incredible. I mean, it's like, and you say that you wanted them to do a black jersey and you had paid for it, and they said no.
No, I worked on that with Andy Geiger for years. I had made that presentation. Actually, had me do a presentation to their whole council and the whole thing, and they decided that the traditionalists at Ohio
It was
State would
Zeke.
have just thrown a fit if they came out in
Oh
it.
my
And
god.
but yeah, no, I because at the time, when the starters in practice wore black jerseys, the pride jersey, and for Ohio State, I'm like, hey, come out in black because we were struggling against Michigan back then. You remember we were
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
long, it was a
A long
bad
funk.
streak against them. Yeah, and I was just like, hey, let's try to break us out of it. And yeah, made the idea, made the pitch, said I'd pay for the entire thing, and got rebuffed. But I was ahead of my time on that one, man. I was definitely ahead of my time.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it just because, I mean, these things are so clean. They look so
No,
good.
but can you imagine, Kirk? Though honestly, if we'd have done a thing kind of like Notre Dame, where you go in, you come out, you warm up in your uniforms, and you go back out, and you come out of the locker room against Michigan in the black uniforms, it would have been it would have been mayhem. It would have just been
It,
like the biggest pop ever at Ohio Stadium, and
I mean,
I feel like I was robbed of that moment because telling people about it, they see it. Man, if we'd have gone out and switched uniforms and come out, I mean, that would have just been crazy.
yeah, I think it would have been amazing as long as you win the game. I think it would have been like one of those seminal moments. But I remember Andy Geiger, and I love Andy Geiger, but I disagree with him vehemently on the fact that he would not buy us black sweatsuits. And I was like, can we please get like some black Nike sweatsuits with the red check? Because John Cooper used to have that black hat with the red check. I used to love that hat. And I was like, that's the best setup in Ohio State is black with the red check and the Ohio State logo. There's nothing that tops that. And like Andy Geiger said, I forget what he said. I don't know if he said to an equipment guy or somebody. Because I asked him, I was like, why can't we get black gear? Because the wrestling team had black gear. It was like every other sport had black gear with red checks except us. Like for whatever reason, all of our stuff was bright red. It looked terrible. It was like we had these red sweatsuits that were terrible, just ugly. Like nobody would ever wear that. And he said Andy Geiger won't buy us black suits because he said we look like thugs. And I'm like, why would us wearing black make us look like thugs? It's just a color. I wear black every day. Even back then, I wore black every day. Like, I ain't no thug, moron. But that was the reasoning. And now, of course, Urban gets there and Ryan Day gets there, and everything is the exact colorway that I wanted. And I'm just like, well, they're doing something right, and that's good. And those, like I said, those black jerseys are the best, and the absolute best. Ben G, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Cheap Heat. Hey, truth is the truth. Appreciate you, my man. Thanks for being an ultra member as well. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of cheap heat nowadays, and that's some of it. Just in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of cheap heat, and we don't subscribe to that stuff. Well, Nevada, it looks like we're up to an hour. Any final thoughts? These games are starting to get
Well,
rolling tonight. Go ahead.
I just texted you a picture. I found a picture of you in the red tracksuit, so I put that. I sent you a text of that.
Oh my God, Kool-Aid. So Nevada, this is what Nevada sent me. The Kool-Aid. I mean, that's what you look like, except for when you walk out across campus in August, you're sweating like a hog. So you're like Kool-Aid with the sweat thing on the outside of the pitcher. You know, like we have like the ice in it. So it's just like, my God, you know. Oh my God.
That'll never get old. Big old blob of
Kool-Aid,
red
the big
walking
blob
around.
Kool-Aid man. Instead of like too many of those concretes from Culver's, I'll be looking like that, you know.
No kidding.
Oh my
Well,
God.
no, just we got the Cavs. We got a huge game for the Cavs. Like, go Cavs, go! Got to get this one done. Win this game. Win this series. Bring LeBron home next year in free agency, and
Bring LeBron home.
bring LeBron home. He's opting it out of his contract. He's going into free agency. Bring him back one more time. Let's go get another title.
If you're Dan Gilbert, do you take Bronny with your first round pick and just like
I would.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
and then just bury him at the end of your bench, bury him in the G League.
Exactly. I mean, that's seriously. I would absolutely do that.
I would do it and try to get 2 years out of LeBron with him. Say, hey, we'll put your kid on the team, but you gotta come home.
I mean, people like LeBron just had 30 points yesterday in the game that they lost to. I mean, like, LeBron is still operating at a really, and he's exactly what the Cavaliers need right now. Exactly.
Dude, he's second team All NBA. Like, that he's like one of the top 10. He's one of the top 10 players in the entire league. Like, I mean, that's like,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. I mean, you think about how deep the league is and how many good players, especially at forward, there are. And he's one of the 4 best forwards in the NBA per the people that vote for the All. And the All NBA team is like, I mean, that is one of the most significant deals in the world, because like these guys, their contracts are tied to making All NBA. Like, if you make All NBA, you get eligible for the Supermax contract. So it's like, that's a huge deal. That's not some throwaway. It's not like making the Pro Bowl where, like, 40 guys opt out and 40 new guys get to make, and there's 180 guys that make the Pro Bowl in the NFL. Like, All NBA is the real deal. So make it All Pro. So yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final thoughts as the Cavs are tipping off?
No, just go Cavs, and appreciate everybody. Leave us a like on your way out, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Appreciate you guys. And I've never asked you guys to do this, but if you guys are on Facebook, follow our Facebook group. We are growing that like crazy right now, and it has been really cool. We are actually broadcasting the show on Twitter, Facebook, which I guess is now X and Meta, along with obviously on YouTube. YouTube is by far the best experience because you get to be a part of the big chat. So we appreciate you guys, as always, kicking it with us. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, we appreciate all you guys do. This was another huge show because you guys made it one. So thank you for that. We appreciate all you guys do. I love the chat. Thank you to Devin, Akeem, Doreen, Shof, You Drink It, Coconut Dreams. I mean, all you guys are in here every night. We appreciate you guys kicking it, having a good time, enjoying yourselves. The camaraderie is amazing. Donald and Karen Rossbach. Appreciate you guys each and every night. You guys are the best. Kimmy, I know you're on here. I think the kids are probably getting cleaned up right now before bed. So I appreciate all you guys do to keep the chat wonderful and clean. So appreciate you guys. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm gonna talk to you guys tomorrow, 7:00 tomorrow. We'll be ready to rock, and we'll break down if there's any more transfer portal movement or visits coming this way. The portal closes tonight, so no one else can leave. But will any of these guys be coming to visit Ohio State? We'll break all that down tomorrow. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.